Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name is Sky. I'm going to be your host for the evening, and tonight I have got the lovely Ranger T with me. Jump on in, T.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our fabulous Penguin Parade Live Penguin TV. Now, I'll be answering quite a few of your questions on YouTube tonight. Hopefully, I'll get to say some on air as well. And whilst we get thinking about penguins coming in, did you know that we had 2,848 penguins coming in last night? So hopefully we'll get some really big numbers like that again tonight. Thank you. Have fun.
Yep, so did you hear that, everybody? 2,848 penguins crossed our beach last night. And, of course, last night was a really fun night, wasn't it? We had Ross come in and talk to us about GPS tracking on penguins and marrying penguins, walking the speed of a penguin, like walking down the aisle. It was good fun. And then hopefully you tuned into Felix from the Cat Empire and other artists giving us some lovely music afterwards. So I'm now just casting my eye out across the water here at Phillip Island or Malau. And the traditional custodians here of Phillip Island are the Boonwurrung. So I'd like to acknowledge the Boonwurrung of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And let us know where you are watching from tonight in the comments. And if you know the traditional custodians of the land on which you are on, let us know that as well. We love to know where you're watching us from each night. And look, we're really lucky to be able to watch these penguins, I have to tell you. And that is because not so long ago, well, actually quite some time ago, there used to be 10 colonies of penguins here on Malau, on Phillip Island. 10. They could be found dotted all around the island. But sadly, with human influences, those colony numbers dropped and dropped and dropped until there was only this one left here on the Summerland Peninsula. And as time went on, the numbers of penguins here on the Summerland Peninsula began to drop as well. And at the lowest point, I believe we had about 12,000 breeding penguins, which was quite low. And our researchers did a bit of work and they looked into it and they figured out that if nothing changed, if things continued going as they were going, if no changes were made, we would have no penguins left here on Phillip Island by the turn of the millennium. So around the year 2000, no penguins left. And we thought, oh gosh, this is terrible. What are we going to do? So the thing was, here in the Summerland Peninsula, there used to be a housing estate. There were around 200 buildings that were on this peninsula. There were roads that people were using at night time, so the penguins were getting caught up in the traffic of the roads. There was construction, of course, going on in their habitat. And so a really big, crazy idea was had, and that was to buy back that land and give it to the penguins. And so in 1985, that's when the Summerland Buyback scheme happened, and the government bought back the land that was being used for buildings and houses and all sorts of things on the Summerland Peninsula and was given back for the penguins. And as far as we know, it is the biggest buyback for an environmental cause for one species in the history of the world. So that was a really big idea. Probably people thought, oh, that's too big, that will never happen. We'll never be able to get this land back to the penguins. And yet it did happen. And here we are now with a colony of about 32,000 breeding penguins. So we have increased that number substantially from that low point of 12,000 penguins, thanks to people having a big idea about conservation, wanting to make a difference and then making it happen. And that's what we're about here at the Phillip Island Nature Parks. Big, crazy conservation ideas that we make happen. For instance, we got rid of foxes just recently. In the last few years, we've become fox-free on our island here. And that has meant that we can introduce the eastern barred bandicoot, which was extinct in the wild. Another crazy idea that you would not have thought possible, and yet here we are making it happen. So if you would like to support the work that we do here at Phillip Island Nature Parks with our big conservation ideas, you can be a part of it by donating to our Penguin Foundation. The link is in the description. You can adopt a penguin. You can become a penguin pal, or you can just donate to our cause and be part of the big ideas that we have here on the island for working towards conservation. But yet we are a not-for-profit conservation organisation, and we work to educate, research, and conserve the island here, Malau, Phillip Island. And of course, tonight it's all about our little penguins. And that was the one species that we were trying to save with that Summerland buyback. It was all for this little penguin. The biggest colony in the world is here on Phillip Island. And so these little penguins at the moment are out at sea somewhere. I'm not seeing any at the moment, but it's a reasonably smooth night. We might get to see some rafts. You've got to look for a bit of a black smudge in the ocean, and those are our rafts of penguins. I wonder if that's one coming here. Oh, it's looking good, isn't it? Or is it just rocks? It's a very high tide tonight, so we'd be expecting penguins probably any time. Well, I might have just, is it just rocks? Yeah, no, it's just rocks. There we go. False alarm. We'll zoom back out again and keep our eyes out for the penguins as they come in. So as Ross said last night, he's our data analyst, and he said we don't really know too much about what penguins do during the day. As far as we know, they're reasonably solitary. But at night time, at this time of night, they form into their rafts and they call to each other. They make a hucking noise that sounds like this. Huck, 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 huck. And that's how they find one another, group together into these rafts, and then they swim together into shore to cross the beach with safety in numbers. Of course, tonight the beach is almost non-existent. Look at that. So the waterfall is pretty much taking up the tiny little stretch of beach that the penguins will be crossing. So they're going to pretty much have to cross through this waterfall, which will be very interesting. Or they might sneak around the side here through those rocks and up to these rocks. But yep, I would assume that we'd be seeing penguins sometime soon. It is pretty light out there, but because it is such a high tide, they might be a bit more gutsy and a bit more willing to cross the beach a little bit earlier because it's not such a long, dangerous dash. So keep your eyes on the horizon, looking out for these rafts of penguins. And a huge night last night. We had so many penguins crossing the beach last night, almost 3,000. So hopefully we'll get big numbers like that again. And we are in the middle of the breeding season, so we would expect to see big numbers. We'd expect to be seeing the penguins coming back to feed their chicks. In fact, I've got it written just up here, between 80 and 90% of our study site burrows on the south coast have eggs and chicks. So it is well and truly happening now. All the penguins have got the message. It's time to breed. We're seeing lots of eggs, lots of chicks at the moment. And we believe that if they continue on this way, we are going to be seeing a decent amount of second clutches of eggs by December. So that means that these penguins that have got their eggs and their chicks right now might be able to completely support and grow their little baby chicks from eggs all the way to till they're old enough to go out by themselves, which takes about 8 to 10 weeks. Then they'll have time to mate again and go again and have another clutch of chicks. So that could mean that some of our penguins sire 4 offspring perhaps this year, and if they're really on it, they may even get to 6, a third clutch of 2 eggs, because our penguins have 2 eggs at a time generally. So yep, we're thinking we'll have some decent second clutches of eggs by the end of the year. So that does point towards a bumper breeding season. We're thinking that we're going to see lots and lots of penguins being laid and hatched this year, which is what we want to see. More penguins is great. We would love to see this colony grow even further. As I said, it got down to 12,000, now at 32,000. And look, there is space for more penguins. So we would love to see more and more penguins taking advantage of this lovely Summerland Peninsula that is now house-free, that is now fox-free, that is filled with bandicoots that are helping with the soil and making the soil nice and easy for them to dig their burrows in, because these bandicoots sort of dig these little pointy noses into the soil. It makes these sort of cone-shaped holes in the soil, and it aerates the soil and sort of turns it over and makes it nice for our penguins. So it's the conditions are perfect for these penguins. They just need to breed and take over even more than they have been. So yeah, we're watching the little penguins tonight, the smallest and the cutest, dare I say, penguins. 33 centimetres tall, 1 kilo in weight, blue feathers. And another little fun fact that I at least haven't spoken about, I think much or maybe at all on this stream, is that our penguins have 3 eyelids. They have the eyelids like you and I have, but then they have a third eyelid that crosses their eye, and it sort of works like goggles. It helps them see underwater and protects their eye underwater. So that's a really fun little feature that you might not have known about our little penguins, this third eyelid. So that perhaps helps them swim underwater, helps them see while they are underwater. So last night at this time, the penguins had already arrived. The penguins had already started crossing the beach. They're keeping us waiting tonight, which is interesting. I guess it is still reasonably light, but it is a very high tide. So it just goes to show you never can predict too much with these penguins. You never know exactly what they're going to do. So we'll have to keep our eyes out for these rafts of penguins. And while we wait, I might get a question from the lovely T, Ranger T. What are people wanting to know?
One good question is, why did we only have 2,848 penguins last night coming home if we've got over 32,000 in the colony?
Oh, good question. Where are the rest of the penguins? Where's the other 30,000 penguins? I reckon this might be a raft out there, this smudge. Let's have a little bit of a look. Where are the rest? Yeah, so they don't all come to this beach. That's one thing. They are all over this Summerland Peninsula. So some of them come to other beaches. Some of them come to around the Nobby. Some of them come around the north side. Yeah, that's a raft of penguins. Look at them go. So that's part of it. Part of it is that they're not all of them come to this beach. So not all of them cross at this beach. The other thing is that they're not all coming back at the same time. Some of them, if they're looking after eggs, they're only going to be coming back every 3 to 5 days, perhaps. So not all of our penguins are going to come back every night. Probably when they start having babies, we'd like to see them coming back night after night, but even then they might not. And then if they're younger penguins, they're not necessarily going to be coming back at all because they won't be breeding just yet. So yeah, we don't get the same numbers every night. We get really different numbers of penguins each night, and it just really depends on who needs to come back, what they need to come back for. As I said, if they've got chicks, they might need to come back every night. If not, they could stay up for 4 weeks at a time. All right, so this is penguins. We've got penguins right here, swimming through the water and washing up on these rocks right here, right now. Hi, little ones. Good to see you. We've missed you since last night.
Sue, our penguin counter has declared water's edge.
Okay, so yes, when we see penguins on the water's edge, our penguin counter, which is the lovely Ranger Sue tonight, she will announce to all of us via radio, there are penguins on the water's edge, and she has called it. And then we wait to see if they cross the beach. Once 5 of them cross halfway across the beach, she calls a start to the count. And I reckon they're not going to wait too long. There's barely any beach for them to cross. So I reckon we're going to get a start to the count imminently. I reckon within the next few minutes. But of course, as soon as I've said that, they've stopped walking, haven't they? Penguins, you're making a liar out of me. Rude. No, they're slow. It looks like they're slowly crossing, doesn't it? So you can see their white bellies shining out. They've got their blue feathers on the back. And this is what keeps them camouflaged in the water. It's a really, it's a very strategic sort of body plan, I guess, that a lot of animals in the water do have. They have a dark back and a light belly. You see it in dolphins, you see it in sharks. It's called counter shading, and what that means is that if anything's looking at them from above, they're going to see blue blending in with the blue of the ocean and the bottomless sort of deep blue sea. Whereas if anything's circling them from below, looking up, if you've ever been to the bottom of a swimming pool and looked up, you'd see it's very light and bright. Their white bellies will camouflage against that light, bright white background that they've got there. So they're camouflaged from both directions, and that's why we see these 2 colours, white on the belly, blue on the back. It keeps them safe from predators. But when they're crossing our golden sand, they do stand out. So they're pretty lucky tonight that they're mostly just crossing rocks, so they're going to blend in really well. Having said that, they still have waited till most of their predators will fall asleep before crossing the beach tonight. So they're savvy. They know not to come too early. They don't want to get eaten. And you know, I don't want to get eaten either. So I think they're pretty sensible, these little penguins. The scareder a penguin is, or the more nervous a penguin is, the more likely it is that they're going to survive. The more skittish they are, the more quickly they'll swim away when something spooks them, the more quickly they'll run away when something spooks them, the more likely it is they're going to survive. If they're brave and go, this doesn't bother me, I'm not bothered by that bird swooping near me, well, they might be that bird's dinner. So we like a spooked penguin. All right, so some have taken off across the water straight away. Of course, we've got guests tonight. We are open to regional Victoria tonight. We're going to be open weekends for the next little while, but hopefully we'll be able to have more of you back sooner than later. We can't wait to see these stands filled with smiling faces as soon as possible, because it's really quite something to see this in real life. It's a very incredible natural phenomenon that we've got going on here. Something really special, something we cherish here on Phillip Island on Malau. So they're crossing our ephemeral pool. That is, a waterfall tonight. We've got streams overflowing, essentially, that are filling this pool, and then the pool's overflowing and into the ocean. We've had so much rain recently. It's very wet down here at the moment. It is a La Nina this year, the La Nina conditions, and we're expecting it's going to be quite a wet summer. The penguins, I don't think, will mind that. They don't mind getting wet. So, they're struggling to get out of the pool. Can you climb on out, little penguins? Is it a bit of a deep pool at the moment? It's a bit of a jump. Oh, you poor things. All right, let's watch them turn the corner here, and let's go. Let me find the big screen now. Let's do that. Let's watch them waddle up our Penguin Highway. So they're waddling up our Penguin Highway, heading home to their burrows. They do head to the same burrow night after night, and they use the same pathway night after night. They are creatures of habit. They don't like to change their plans. They don't like to change the way that they walk. So they'll go the same way every night back to their burrow. And Russ was saying last night, even if their burrow seems to be right next to the ocean and there would be a quicker way to do it, no, they'll take the long convoluted way home if that's what they've always done. And they do tend to go back to the place that they were hatched, where they were laid and hatched. So they will usually be within about 50 metres of wherever they were hatched. So something's obviously sending them home. Now, is this a shell gritter? What's this penguin doing? Walking the opposite way, perhaps? Yes, it does look like it looks like she's on a mission. So this is one of our penguins who is doing the right thing in this breeding season, and she has got eggs in her belly. So let's go back. We've got eggs in the belly at the moment. That's why she is walking the opposite way, because she's probably been in her burrow all day, and now that it is the cover of night, now that she's safe, she's heading on down to the beach. There's not much beach tonight for her to nibble on shells on, but yep, she's looking for shells. She's looking for shells to nibble on, to get extra calcium to help boost the calcium in the eggshells, because of course the eggshells are made of calcium, and she needs extra to build that shell. Now the shell is the last thing that forms of the egg. Oh, we've got some more penguins arriving. Yep, the shell is the last thing to be built. Well, it looks like we've got a raft coming in behind these little ones at the front as well. So let's see if they come forward too. So just before they're about to lay the eggs is when we see them shell gritting, is when we see them walking down to the beach. So you know that if a lady is walking the opposite direction, she's just about to lay that egg. And then once that egg is laid, chances are she'll head on out to the water and get some food, and her husband, her partner, will take over egg duty and will look after the eggs for probably 3 to 5 days. Then she'll come back, take her turn sitting on the egg, and he can go out and feed himself for 3 to 5 days as well. So another little raft is crossing. Now, did we get a number on the first raft that crossed T?
There was 41 penguins in that first group.
Fantastic. 41 penguins. How did you go with the counting, everybody? We've got Sue, Ranger Sue's counting tonight. And another pretty manageable group, I would say. This is a not too bad group for her to count, which is lucky because it is very high tide tonight. So she doesn't have much time to get the number right. Sometimes when it's a really, really low tide, you can count and recount the rafts or the waddles of penguins as they cross the beach. You've got that sort of time. On a night like tonight, you're really going to be doing one and done with your counting. You're going to get one count and that's it. No time to check if you got it right. So it's a tough night for penguin counting, but honestly, if you've watched this before, you'll know that I say that every night because I think every night counting any amount of penguins is a tough night for the person doing that job. I do not wish to do that job. If I can avoid that job forever, I will avoid that job forever. It's a tough gig trying to count these penguins because more or less, let's face it, they all kind of look the same, don't they? They're all about a kilo. They're all about 33 centimetres tall. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of variation, but more or less to the human eye, well, a penguin's a penguin, isn't it? So it's tough. And when they're coming in numbers like 2,848, you got your work cut out for you in 50 minutes to try and count that amount of penguins. All right, as we wait for some more penguins to arrive, T, have we got any questions?
One good question. How do we ensure that foxes don't cross the bridge?
Well, how do we... Yes, okay, so we are an island, so that is lucky. We keep the foxes off because we are an island. It's hard for them to get onto the island, but we do have a bridge. And so the way that we keep the foxes off the bridge is, I believe we've got camera traps on the bridge. Is that correct? Yes. That we watch and make sure that there's no foxes crossing. If we see a fox cross, then our fox rangers will jump on that straight away and they'll go and try and find that fox. The other thing that we do is we have a bit of a fox buffer zone. So beyond our bridge, we have an area that we try to keep fox free off the island as well, so that it's even unlikely that a fox would be near enough the bridge to be able to cross the bridge. So that's how we keep the island fox free. Of course, we've got a fox hotline as well, so if people see a fox and they can report it, and we can try and catch that fox and make sure that we stay fox free. Oh, so we've got a bit of diving board action going on here. Let's watch these penguins as they jump off our diving board. Our diving board's been cut in two. The water's cut our diving board in two. What are we going to do? So let's see these penguins as they jump off. As they jump off into the water. That was more of a slip, I think. What's the dive score for that little penguin? Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, very cute. But I'm going to cast my eyes back to the water because I do think we haven't seen any of those impossibly huge rafts of penguins yet tonight, have we? And they've got to be coming. I'd be very surprised if we don't get around the 2,000 mark tonight, that or thereabouts. That's what I'd be expecting to see. So those big groups of penguins are holding off for the moment. It could be that tonight they don't come. As I said, we get different numbers every night. We could get a surprisingly low count tonight for whatever reason, but as I said, it is a little bit unlikely because it is the middle of the breeding season. So I'm just going to keep my eyes on the water over here and see what we can see. See if we can see any more penguins coming this way. Oh, yep, I'm just catching another raft arriving. Oh, here we go. Have a look at that. This is one of the big rafts that we were waiting for. Thanks, penguins. We appreciate you. Have a go at counting this one. I'd almost have to zoom out a tiny bit for you to be able to see it in all its glory. What do you reckon? Lots and lots of penguins. So as we watch this group of penguins crossing the beach, stumbling across these rocks, heading towards our salon and preening rocks, let's get another question from Ranger T.
What's the estimated number of penguins in this beach area?
Oh, actually, T, can you answer that for me? Because I'm not exactly sure.
I can. There's just over 4,000 along this beach.
Wow, just over 4,000. So that means on the nights where we get 4,000, that means just about every penguin has left and come back. And of course, we do say these are breeding penguins. It's the breeding penguins that we count. Oh, look at them run. Look at them go. So we're not even counting the young. We're not even counting the ones that are too young to breed just yet. We count the ones that are breeding, that have got a burrow that they're returning to night after night. Oh, that is a swarm of penguins. At-home penguin counters, citizen scientists of the world, what do you reckon? How many penguins? Poor Sue. Lots and lots of penguins. So yeah, if you'd like to support these penguins, if you'd like to help the work that we do, click on the link in the description to donate to our penguin foundation. Adopt a penguin. It doesn't mean you get to take one home. You wouldn't want to take one home. They poo a lot. They're really noisy. They stink. They're not a good pet. You wouldn't want to adopt one and take one home, but you do get to symbolically adopt one. You can name it. You can call it something, whatever you want, something unique. Ross was telling us last night a unique name is good. We want to call our penguin something that no other penguin has been called before. Oh, shell gritter in the top just above me there. Walking the opposite way. That is exactly what you want to do. Now, I'm seeing a few silver gulls or seagulls, you might know them as, in the background there. Can you see them? Now, these are not birds that are going to eat our penguins. Our penguins aren't too bothered by our silver gulls. They're usually just around trying to pick up any snacks from our guests, usually, is what they like to come from. They want the chips and chocolates and popcorn. But they are hanging around tonight, but yet not bothering our penguins too much, our silver gulls, or seagulls as you all know them. So here we go. That big raft has crossed the water now, is become a waddle or a group of penguins as they get onto land, and they are heading up our penguin highway, heading towards their burrows, heading back to their chicks, bellies full of fish and squid and sea jellies, and they are getting ready probably to feed their chicks. Now, their chicks will be at home making all sorts of really high-pitched noises, kind of like a kind of noise, a really annoying, whingy voice. And it's probably equivalent of kids going, Mom, I'm hungry. Dad, I'm hungry. Mom. That's the sort of noise that they're making. They're really wanting to implore their adults, give me food. I'm starving. I haven't eaten all day, perhaps. So that's what the noise that they're making. And as they get bigger, they will really attack their parents or any adult that comes past them. We see chicks, these baby penguins, these chick penguins who are quite big. They get really big really quickly. They become almost the size of their adults within about 5 or 6 weeks. And they can really take on, when there's 2 of them against the one adult penguin that's coming past them, they will bully pretty much any penguin that comes past them into trying to give them some food. They will try it on. We don't know if it's that they don't know who their parent is and they are just trying every penguin that they can, or if they do know who their parent is and they're just trying to get a bit of extra food from any penguin that they can bully enough to get the food from. So yeah, you can see some sort of penguin wars going on as the chicks get older, them attacking any adult that comes past with that annoying kind of noise saying, please give me food, I'm hungry. And it is good because the penguins or the chicks that are the biggest do tend to survive better than the chicks that haven't been fed so well. So a big, healthy, chunky penguin chick is going to do much better in the water when the time comes. So when the time comes, the parents will just stop feeding the chicks. They just stop coming back and the chicks go, right, okay, I guess it's time to figure this out. I guess I've got to eat, so I guess I've got to figure out where the ocean is. I've got to figure out how to get there. I've got to figure out how to swim. I've got to figure out how to catch food. And they go off and do that. So the more food that they've got in their belly, the more stock, stock that they've got ready to go means that they have a little bit more leeway if they have a bit of trouble in all of that.
Would you believe in that big group we had over 645 penguins.
Over 645 penguins in that waddle. Oh my goodness, poor Sue. 645. Tough night. That is a tough night. Imagine counting 645 penguins in one hit. How did you go, everybody? Did you get the 645? It's going to be another big number night tonight. I can feel it. So you'll have to tune in tomorrow night if you want to know how many came tonight. We count our penguins for 50 minutes. If you want to know how many penguins we had tonight, you'll have to tune in tomorrow from, I believe, about 6:40 tomorrow night again, I believe. And the rangers tomorrow night will let you know how many penguins we had. It won't be T or I tomorrow night. It's going to be some different rangers for you, so you'll have to tune in to see exactly who that's going to be. But I think you'll have some fun. It'll be another great week of penguin watching in the next week. Now, since I think we've got 2 minutes left, everybody, I'm going to get one more question from Ranger T.
Since we've been talking about whinging kids in the supermarket asking mum and dad for food, how do mum and dad feed the chicks?
Oh, good question. So the mum and dad feed their chicks they go out fishing and they store all of the food within their body. And they actually they change the pH of their stomach so that they don't dissolve all of the fish. Like when we eat something, our stomach has all sorts of chemicals in it that dissolve and try to digest that food down into a bit of a goopy soup that we then pass through our digestive system. But the penguins, when they are feeding chicks, they actually change the acidity of their stomach so that it is less corrosive, so that it wears down that food not so much, I guess. And so what Andre was telling us about is that it's sort of like they turn their stomach into a fridge. They keep the fish nice and fresh. So we used to think that they were giving their babies a bit of a fishy soup, but now we know that they're actually giving them some pretty fresh fish. And so they store it in their bodies, and when they see their babies, they put their mouth against their baby's mouth, sort of like that, and then they regurgitate the food into their mouths. So that means they kind of vomit the fish that's in their bodies into the mouths of their young. So the little chick penguins, our little penguin chicks, are eating their parents' vomit. Just like my mum used to feed to me. No, my mum did not feed me vomit, but that is what penguin parents do, and a good penguin parent will be vomiting and vomiting and vomiting into their babies' mouths and giving them all sorts of delicious fish regurgitation deliciousness. Ugh, yuck. Oh, and see, that's another reason you wouldn't want to adopt a penguin. Do you want to be the one who's regurgitating fish into a penguin's mouth? I don't think so. That does not sound like a fun job. I do not want to be a penguin mum. I do not want to be a penguin dad. Not interested. No, thank you. So with this another big waddle coming on through at the moment, I think it's got to be time to say farewell. So do keep in mind, everybody, if you'd like to help us in the work that we do, please do donate to the Penguin Foundation. We're all wearing masks at the moment. We take ours off just for these streams. I'm going to be putting mine back on in just a moment. But do keep in mind, if you can wear a reusable mask, please do, because it does save the environment. If you can't wear a reusable mask, then if you're using a single-use mask, please make sure to cut the straps. Our penguins do get tangled up in all sorts of things like balloon strings, but yes, these masks are yet another thing that if they end up in the waterways, they can get tangled up in these masks. And so it's a really simple thing that you can do at home, is just cut those straps before you pop them in the bin, just to make sure that our penguins and our seabirds are going to stay safe. But look, thank you so much for tuning in. T and I will probably see you in a week or so. Let me just get one last. I want to focus in on these penguins a little bit better so we can say goodbye. Yep, T and I will see you in a week or so. We've had so much fun. We hope you've been enjoying it. Make sure you keep tuning in for the next week. And yep, we'll see you later. Jump on in, T. Let's say bye.
Thank you, everybody.
From our penguin friends as well. All right, good night, everybody. See you later.